Hello and thank you for joining us on the Tuesday edition of Journalists Hangout. I'm Adewale Uzubahu. Today on the program, 53 commissioners, others resign across states as ministers stay put in office. And later on the show, NLC, federal government to respect collective bargaining agreement with unions as Ngige tells ASUU to return to the classroom. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade-Otitoju and Adewale Adeoye. So if you are ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for staying with us. Let's begin with a delicate and troubling matter. The alleged rape of a 10-year-old pupil of Christian school, Lagos, is giving us a collective rude awakening. The Lagos state government has ordered the closure of all Christian schools in the states. Also, the State Commissioner of Police, Adewale, said the command has commenced investigation into the matter. Meanwhile, the Executive Director of Invectus Africa, Buki Shonibare, says Nigerian law is silent on rape. Take a listen.
Nigerian law is silent as it relates to statutory rape. Generally, and by statutory rape, which is the argument in relation to the Christian schools case, is to say that when a child, when rape occurs between presumably an adult and a child who has not attained the statutory age of consent, so none of the laws we currently have in Nigeria contemplate situation where both the perpetrators and the victims, as is this case, are minors or they are children. If any legal action or criminal action is brought, it will have to be decided based on the general case of.
What you said. Babajide, this Christian thing is so baffling, and it shows everything collectively. We've all failed. Parenting, schools, and guardian, and those people that should be responsible, you know, for the upkeep and growth of any girl child or any child.
You see, parenting has been going steadily down in our country, just like the Nigerian currency has been going down for years, without us paying attention.
Yes, I saw your post yesterday, 600 naira to $1.
That is the truth.
That's the height of.
At a point when it was 180, Jonathan was called names. But here we are today. I wish some of those people can man up to deliver the same kind of criticism that they delivered when it was 180, 185. I've said it repeatedly. This CBN governor came into office at 180, 185. Now we are closing in on one, because on Easter Monday it was 583 at the parallel market, which is seen as the most realistic of all, because it's not government imposed. It is determined by market forces. So 583. So it's closing in on 600 gradually. So parenting had been going steadily down. We did not see anything wrong about it. Today's generation of parents think that the way to make the child happy is to simply pander to everything that the child wants. And I was on a flight to Abuja one day I will never forget. There was this boy, who was barely 5 years. He would climb the aeroplane seat and then jump down. He would repeat the routine again and again and again. And at a point I said, little boy, stop that. Do you know the woman screamed at me, said, don't shout at my son. I said, and somebody put this idiot at home as a wife. That boy could even break his back in the process. Parents now see even scolding their child.
They go to the schools.
Yes. No, I'm not going there yet. In their own homes, they can't scold their child. Whereas our parents, even if a woman tries to get in the way of a father trying to discipline the child,
they will beat you.
That woman could be beaten in return, so that you now learn an exemplary lesson, or be kicked out of the home. You know? So, what are we talking about? Are we going to be playing to the gallery again and continue to blame schools when parenting has collapsed? Parents allow their children access to gadgets.
Android phone.
There is nothing wrong in giving your child, because some of them can actually learn. You lesson and the rest you can use on your phone.
But the flip side
you
of
can
it.
learn. No, there are safety nets that you can put. For example, you can ensure that the child cannot download a new app on the tablet that you've given him unless a request for, what's it called, for a code is asked for. Some parents do
you
that.
must always approve any app
You
to
know
download it.
You know what the child is doing with that tablet. He can't download any app unless there's a request for a code, which will then bring the parent into the equation. You understand? So what we have seen, the skills, I'm sorry to say, the skills that those kids showed in that video can only be the result of constantly downloading adult content on their phones. Look, some of us are old-timers already. Like Abbas Adeoye, who is based in the US, he likes to call himself an old-timer. I'm an old-timer. But I'm saying those skills that we saw in that video, some people have not seen that video. Those skills are not for neophytes. They are not for people who just began to copulate. This is the truth.
That means that's not the first time.
They've been watching adult content unrestrained, and they felt like just doing it. I was on Facebook this morning. I saw a video of a 15-year-old boy and his friends who wanted to lodge in an hotel.
I saw it.
And the
person there was like,
yes,
security.
What are you? You want to lodge in an hotel?
Yes,
How old are you? She said 15.
And the girls started moving away. They were embarrassed.
At that point, they knew that, okay, but how many hotels stop such kids? I was in Lokoja. If you see these small boys and girls who lodged in the hotel where I stayed, in fact, I felt a deep sense of revulsion. They came and they were smoking weed and other things, unrestrained, because some of them get into higher institution at 16 or 17. So I was looking at them and said, this boy can't be as old as my firstborn now. My firstborn is 19. And they lodged, brought their mates, little girls. I don't know, even to lose virginity is so cheap now. It's as cheap as sachet water. Whereas in those days it was a thing of honor to hold on to it, whether you are a man or not.
When you begin to see these signs, and we investigated this particular person in question, and we noticed that, number one, the age might not be that actual age. Number two, we now discovered that she's been making videos and she has followers online. That was when I came into a conclusion that no, this is not a neophyte. This is not a first-timer.
I think
she's been dancing and she's been uploading the pictures online.
We are dealing with a very serious problem, because if we have no cause to celebrate today, at least tomorrow should give us hope. These children are the future of our country. And what they are doing, you know, we have very serious implications for the moral fabric of the country. Just like Babajide has said, there are 3 layers of schooling, you know, to bring out the best in a child. The society itself, the schools, that's why we send them to school to be trained and to be given education, and then the family. The first social unit, the first institution is the family. And it is the most important.
Yes.
Because the first years of a child, you spend it with your father and your mother. So what goes on in that home has a lot of impact on the psychology of the child. If you have some parents who go to parties, come back by 1 a.m., they are drunk, they watch pornography, you know, they resort into violence, courtism, necessarily that child will take after those children. He will go through their phones when they are not around, and all the child sees pornographic films. So the child thinks it's normal. When you are trying to correct that
children,
child,
they are curious.
Yes.
The first thing they go for is your phone.
Your phone. You can't sleep 24 hours. Or I mean, there are moments to go and bath.
They will even use your...
They tell you, I want to use your phone. They have assignment. I want to look at the internet. Then you go to internet, you now see pornography and all sorts of things. And you know, even some WhatsApp groups that we belong to, you see some people, adults, they will send, you know, the admin will be telling them this thing is not for, and some of them will be defending it. So you can see near collapse of parentage. And if parents are not responsible, they can't give birth to responsible children. It's not possible. So we need to go back to search our conscience. You know, what kind of children do we want to, you know, to produce? Because if at that age, that tender age, then you can just imagine, and she's going to infect so many other children through peer influence. So we need to actually do a moral survey of our society.
I think
in order to be able to.
A lot of parents are so irresponsible that they've outsourced the upbringing of their children to schools.
I wanted to talk about the Christmas Day bomber. If you remember, it was in a big mansion on his own.
A £5 million house that the father bought.
He had access to internet, was watching people from Yemen.
Alone.
He went to Yemen.
He was living alone in the house.
Do you understand? So what we expose our children to?
The thing is, sometimes a child could be a product of a disciplined home, good upbringing, yet by mingling with some never-do-wells and bad people, it could be influenced. That's a different matter. But increasingly, parents are going through hell trying to make money so that they can put their children in the best schools, so that they can fend for their families. And their responsibility as parents, they are leaving it behind, leaving it in the hands of schools. And a lot of these schools are not even investing anything in child protection. So when these sort of things happen, who do you blame? The blame is both ways. Character, you begin to form character in your home. That's where it begins. If there are things that you do that your parents don't complain about, chances are that you will grow up with it. So this is the thing. This is the way we were brought up. But the current generation, I have extreme pity, because look, this won't be the last. But I'm alarmed at the age of these people, because look, even one of those children gave us an idea of their age when he was saying, you are just 13, you are just 11, you are doing this, you know. So this is the thing. We can ban the video, we can threaten people with jail and all that. The steps that we need to take from within the home, if we don't take, we won't be, this kind of things will continue to happen.
And very expensive school.
Yes. You can't trust teachers to do all the best for your children. You get home around 12 midnight, your children are asleep. You don't go into their rooms to even have an idea of what they are doing. The next day by 4 a.m. in a place like Lagos, where life is actually rat race, you are out again. 4 a.m. The children don't see you. It is the house help. It is the house help that takes care of the children, that wakes them up, that baths for them, puts them in the school bus, and they are gone to school. You are not a parent anymore. You have outsourced your responsibility to house help and the teachers in the schools.
Wow. Okay, moving on now. When the game-changing Tucano fighter jets arrived in Nigeria from the United States of America, we thought our security woes across board would come to an instant end. The presidency says before the Tucano jets can be deployed in the banditry-ravaged Northwest, in terms of agreements of the purchase of the aircraft need to be adhered to. According to the presidential spokesman, Garba Shehu, this is to ensure that Nigeria does not enter the black book of the US and the International Criminal Courts, ICC. Judy? last upper Sunday, we talked about this thing.
Yes,
And
this Sunday too.
Yes, a lot of people that expect that, look, when the Super Tucano come, that they can, apart from the northeast, they can rot wonders in the other part of the country, but no, the agreement is not like that.
Everything that Garba Shehu said, so those who listen to this program regularly, I have said it repeatedly, because I suspected that we would not want to go against the agreement. There's an agreement in place that, look, as far as they are concerned, terrorism was happening in the northeast. The Leahy law that Obama used to deny us access to U.S. weapons, that Leahy law is still there.
Yeah.
Trump, just as an individual, took it upon himself, invited our president to the U.S. after he won the election. He said, I will help you to defeat terror. I'm going to sell weapons to you. Something that our own black brother refused to do. Now, after that, remember, the moment the Americans made up their minds to sell weapons, the human rights groups and the rest, they started complaining that, look, the Nigerian forces, they don't have a good human rights record. They will use this weapon. They will use this weapon against the innocent people, this and that. IPOP also complained because they sensed that they could send
they could deploy
to Kano to so for that reason, the Americans said, okay, bearing in mind Leahy law that forbids the selling of weapons to countries where
human rights,
there is no guarantee that it won't be used against civilians. This thing should be deployed against terrorists. And where did we have those terrorists? Northeast. So that was the agreement.
Against Boko Haram.
Now, people like Governor Erufai pushed and pushed and pushed and said, let's rename these people terrorists. We went ahead. I said at that time that renaming them terrorists won't solve the problem. What will solve the problem is to have the right strategy to deal with them, not simply what you call them. We didn't listen. We went ahead. We said, okay, by fiat, they are now terrorists. When Governor Rufai asked for that law, he said that it will enable us to use the full weight of our law against them. Tucano bombers, 12 of them, we have them. But we didn't sign an agreement with them to use it outside the Northeast. If we begin to call them terrorists, that is our own this thing. To many people, the definition, the globally accepted definition of a terrorist does not fit what these good-for-nothing people are doing in the Northwest. Because these ones are simply out for money. You understand? So how do we do it? Are we going to risk the anger of these people, especially now when we want more weapons, by going against the agreement? I don't think the Nigerian forces was prepared to listen to politicians by going against the arrangement. If you go against it, they won't sell more. They will stop the service. They will stop selling spears to you. They will stop the training of your personnel, because they were the ones who came and even helped us to build the hangar where we keep them somewhere in Niger State. We keep the Tucano somewhere in Niger State. They will not do all of that. When you can't get spears for them, how do you keep them going? When you cancel the maintenance agreement, because that cost of the Tucanos come with maintenance costs and all that, and spares. So what do you do? If they go against you, they refuse to sell to you, they refuse to do business to you, then you will blame yourself. And I've said that we have helicopters that can do this job. Get more helicopters. If you look at the story of Colombia, Sri Lanka, countries that have dealt with this kind of insurgency, they use a lot more ground attack helicopters than we use. Tucano, they have their own job. Their job, we all know them for precision, for accuracy. But in terms of getting close to the field of battle and dealing decisively with these guys, helicopters will do it. Let's stop thinking, yes, let's not thinking that only Tucanos can do it. I disagree. So we just need to accept our fate. We entered into an agreement. This is not a federal government ASUU agreement that we can breach the way we like. No. It's not. There are consequences when you breach it.
Wale, now looking at Nigerians, they just want a kind of change.
Yeah.
They want, the situation right now. They want the situation to be upturned, whether it is by Tucano or whatever. Just get on top of what is happening, because now we felt that with the coming of this Tucano, we are going to stop terrorism, stop banditry and everything. But now we know our limitation that, look, beyond the Northeast, they can't go any other places. Or we are going to face the sanction by
about $500 million to get this, about 6 of them. Now we are talking of 12. So a whole lot of
$500
money.
million and
for
times
6.
So
That's just for 6 of them. So
12.
12 now. So for
500
12
million for 6. So for 12,
12 that's like $1 billion.
$1 billion.
Wow.
Now, the fact of the matter is that Nigeria is a member of the international community.
Okay.
We are bound by international laws. The UN Arms Export Control Act of 1976 has its own regulations when you want to sell arms to other countries, which was an amendment of the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961. And the fact of the matter is that the US says, if you want to sell arms, you have to report to the Congress. It has to be justified by the fact that those arms are going to be used to promote global peace, not to fight civilians. So you can't breach that law. Even when you breach that law, you go to other countries to buy lethal weapons. The United Nations Arms Treaty is there, which has been ratified by about 101 countries, to say that arms must only be used, excessive force, against terrorist groups, not against civilians or bandits or people who are just fighting against the state.
Well, some people want the banditry to fall into the category.
This came into force in 2014 when the president of Costa Rica and a lot of Peace Nobel laureate came up and said, look, you are selling arms to people that are using it to fight civilians. The UN had to adopt series of conventions and then accepted that, look, nations cannot buy arms if they are going to be used against civilians. So our arms are tied. We can't do anything about it. So, and I think I support the idea that we have to look at other means of dealing with this problem. But if you are looking at Tucano being deployed into the northwest, I don't think, or middle belt, or north central, it's not going to happen. Don't also forget that the body is on the president because the International Criminal Court is there.
Yes.
So after his exit, we don't want anybody to come and pick him and say they want to take him. So he needs to be very careful. So he needs to be very careful. That's the dilemma.
All right. Moving on now. The race for the 2023 election is earnest and preparation by those seeking political offices are in top gear. As at now, 53 commissioners and other aides of governors have resigned across states to contest the elective positions. This is in line with Section 84, subsection 12 of the amended Electoral Act, but ministers and other heads of federal agencies eyeing elective positions are yet to tender their resignation. Let me take this quick break. When we come back, we'll discuss more. It's still Journalists Hangout. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's still Journalist Hangout, and we are looking at Section 84, subsection 12 of the amended Electoral Act. Babajide, now we have some states, like I just read breaking news before I came into the newsroom now that Governor Oyetola has even told his own appointees that if you're interested in any political office, just resign. The Dakwabiadotu did the same thing earlier, and some governors have been encouraging that look, it's better to be safe than sorry, that just resign and go and contest. But our ministers, like the Minister of Transportation that declared his intention to contest for the presidency, he's still in office. I don't know maybe what kind of a leverage that these people intend to get. But this controversial Section 84, subsection 12.
There's still time for them to get out of the system. You know, tomorrow they could wake up and say, okay, we are going. So I want to be careful the kind of comment I make about them. I know that the Attorney General may have been encouraging some of them. Maybe he's confident that he will win that case, that they will win that case in court, but the law is the law. It's already the law. As far as the law has been signed by the president, whether he signed it
with the caveat
with
or
the
not.
expectation that it will be reversed, it's been signed. And nothing says the president must always have his way. He's had his way a lot of times under the leadership of this current crop of National Assembly.
Night assemblies.
Yes. They've always supported the president. So if on a particular issue they decided to stand firm, I think the best thing is to let it slide. Instead of hoping that, okay, maybe they could reverse themselves. They made up their minds that they were not going to reverse it. It was a massive, massive voice vote. I've not seen a voice vote as resounding as that one that I saw that day. Said no. Everybody literally said, no, we are not going to have a second look at this thing. And that says a lot. They made up their minds. So now, as long as the president has signed, it is the law. Until the final court, the Supreme Court, says, okay, this this law is against human rights, it's against this, it's against that. Even that is unlikely because of the fact that the people that that the Constitution describes as public officers are people employed in the public service. Those appointees of government are not employed in the public service. That has to be made clear. That is the people, the premise upon which the opponents of those against this law are arguing is that it's against the fundamental human rights of those public servants. But the Constitution does not list this category of the president's aides amongst the people described in the Constitution as public servants. So we just have to live with the fact that this law is there, and until it's reversed, it makes sense to just obey it. The ministers are not bigger than the state, and they are not bigger than other Nigerians who are obeying it. So what they want to do is in their hearts, but we are watching, as your journey usually says. We are watching.
Now, even the ruling party in their national convention last time, they were circumspect in the way they treated this thing, knowing that anything, if they had acted, contrary to this might be used against them in future. So for their for the elective positions and everything, they made sure that they took steps that acted as if this law had been enacted. So why would a federal minister, why would the head of one agency, you want to be governor, you want to be president, is it the leverage they get in with the present position? Are they scared of what?
The interest of the majority should override individual preferences. We already have a law passed by the National Assembly and signed by the president. In fact, in other countries, you don't even need to make law. You can by convention, because there is a lot of things attached into. When you are the commissioner for information, you want to contest for House of Assembly, and you fail to resign, you'll be using an official vehicle, official equipment to do your campaign, and you are campaigning against someone who is not even a government official. So, I mean, it's not right. Morally.
Instruments of state.
I mean, instruments of state to campaign, fund, you are still earning salary. You are using the same salary to now, run your campaign. So it's wrong. And that's why I'm surprised that people are trying to even, challenge this law. If they are not careful, if some of them fail to resign, and eventually they resign maybe few, or maybe after the election or primary or whatever, this law could be used against them, even when they might have won such positions. So I think for me, any wise person,
in their own interest,
this is the right time to leave. You can't eat your cake and have it. You want to be holding on to minister, and then at the same time you have to choose one. So for me, I think it doesn't. It's not logical for people who want to continue to still cling on to power, even as we are speaking today.
Ultimately, this will be tested, and maybe before the 2023 election and everything, we get the results, but there will be implications.
Yes, I know that the matter is on, and the appeal court has told the Attorney General not to put any obstacle in the way of that appeal that the National Assembly has instituted. It's been told in clear terms by the court, don't get in the way, don't try to block this, because an Attorney General who suddenly came out to say that they are ready to implement the
judgment of that Abia.
Yes, and he knew in his heart, as the chief legal officer of our country, he knew that it was not a judgment from a final court. It was just a judgment from a court
the speech
in one corner of Nigeria, one corner of the southeast, and you are saying that you want to implement what? So every time a small court gives a verdict, are you telling us now that you are obligated to just quickly go and implement? Is that the standard now? Is that the way to go now? We need to be told.
Selfish interest.
We need to be told, because this is strange. I've never seen anything like that. That a Lagos High Court will give an order, or even if it was a judgment. It's not the final court. There is Court of Appeal. There is the Supreme Court, the final court of the land. They are yet to weigh into the matter, and you are thinking about implementing. That underlines the bias of Attorney General Abubakar Malami on the matter. But I'm happy that we are a nation of laws. We are a nation of order. In spite of that pronouncement that showed clearly where he stood on the matter, he has not gone ahead to live up to the threat to implement that order. It is the National Assembly that has the right to amend our laws. Courts, by proclamation, can say this law is against fundamental human rights, and the statement of the court becomes law straight away. Not that a court will give the Attorney General the go-ahead to go and expunge. Where is that done? Where? We are waiting. We want to see what happens at the level of appeal, and how even those judges at the level of appeal will respond to that directive from that
court,
that little court and in Abia State.
And even we are testing our democracy, and with time, by the time we go through this amendment, after some time we'll get it right.
Yes, it's getting too late. There are certain things we just need to get right, because there are just certain basic things that you keep on wondering. It's no longer about the country now. It's about an individual. And I think we should not allow that to happen. It's about individual interest. It's not about the interest of...
We don't want to build that institution.
Yes.
So
we should be thinking about building institutions that are sustainable, not about
looking beyond your own.
Who think that their preferences are above the laws of the country.
And finally, there's no end in sight yet regarding the ongoing strike by the university lecturers, with the onus tilting towards the federal government for quick resolution. The president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, Ayuba Waba, has urged the federal government to respect the collective bargaining agreement entered into with the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, and other unions in tertiary institutions in the country. Meanwhile, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Senator Chris Ngige, has asked the striking university lecturers to consider the plight of students and parents and return to work. We have ASUU, we have NASU, that's the academic staff, non-academic staff. We have senior staff, SSANU, Association of Nigeria University, and these people, they are pressing for this demand. And the National Labour Congress is telling the Minister of Federal Government that, look, that use the principle of collective bargaining and accede to these demands.
Is when they make this kind of demands, they are not referring to ASUU alone. We have a history, as our government has a history of refusing to implement agreements that it duly entered with labor. We were here when health workers were on strike. Even at the risk of coronavirus getting worse in our country, what were they fighting for? They said the hazard allowance was too low, or something instituted in the early 80s that it should be increased. Promise was made to increase it. Promise was made to implement other demands in the memorandum of action that was signed. But what did we see? They waited for 6 months, because when the health workers went on strike and they called off, they suspended the strike. There's a difference between suspending the strike and calling it off. When you suspend, you don't need to give notice to your employer before resuming the strike. You know, so when they suspended the strike, they did that believing that that the government may not even honor its word. They had to come back. They resumed the strike. It was after they resumed that strike that a decision was then reached that, okay, this hazard allowance, we are increasing it. And they then took steps to meet some of the demands. Look at what ASUU has been talking about. ASUU said this time around, out of the numerous demands that we've made, just implement 2. And ASUU did that in the interest of the students. Just 2. The renegotiation of the 2009 agreement, as well as acceptance of UTAS as alternative to IPPIS, because the IPPIS is seen as inflexible for the university environment.
Yes, the UTAS thing is designed to cater for their operations.
They asked ASUU to come up with alternative. ASUU members designed the software. It cost them in the region of 30 million to design that software. It was past fit. After that, we refused to implement. We want to continue to use the IPPIS. And they are saying, no, we don't want this. Now, if they are saying they come down to just 2 demands, I think courtesy demands that those 2 demands should be looked at. Let conversation be around how to implement just 2 of those demands going forward. But you can't just keep telling them, go back to work, go back to work. My own concern is yes, private universities, they are not going on strike. Any student who is in private university, he knows that, okay, at least that usual disruption will not happen at their end. But students, when they are filling jam form, they usually see private universities there. But knowing that an overwhelming majority of them, their parents can't afford those schools, they still opted for public universities. If we want to destroy public universities so that only private universities can exist in our country, we need to know We need to know, because by keeping them, then how many students,
how many parents,
parents will be able to afford
those private
There are some of those private universities where they take between 1.5 million to 2 million a semester. How many parents can afford it? Even jump form, some parents can't afford.
As cheap as jump form.
As cheap as it is. That's why I'm not in support of even making jump a profit or revenue generating agency, when a good number of our people cannot afford to buy jam form. Schools, I mean, state government are even supporting. I mean, individuals are supporting. Some states, as we speak, are owing WAEC exam fees that they paid on behalf of schools. Some of them are owing. They are owing. So it's difficult for a lot of parents to even cope with educating their children, paying school fees and all that. Who feels it knows it. We may think that because we are here, we can afford it. But how about those downtrodden parents? They can't afford it. That's why the public university must survive.
Well, the Minister of Labour and Employment, that's Dr. Chris Ngige, is saying that the striking university lecturers to consider the plight of students and parents and return to work. That at this time is not something that is enviable to belong to any public university, whether state or federal government, because their counterparts in the private university, they're going on with their academic calendar.
The minister is right to say that ASUU members should consider the plight of students. You should also understand that it is their consideration for the plight of students that they are on strike. Because if you look at their demands, they are talking of funding of public schools. So this strike is not for them. They are making this sacrifice. I'm sure they are not happy, you know, with the distortion of academic calendar. They are making the sacrifice in the interest of the future of our children. The fact of the matter is that most of the students in these public universities are from poor homes. If policymakers also have their children in these public schools, they will take it more serious. So the minister should also consider the plight of the students and hearken to the demands of ASUU. There is no point signing MOU and then each time you renege. You see, part of the demands of ASUU was that, look, proliferation of private universities. February last year, federal government approved 20 private universities.
State universities.
You know, this year again, they approved private universities. State universities, the same proliferation is going on. So you keep on saying, okay, we want peace, yet those conditions that are supposed to give room for peace, you are not, you know, you are not obeying those conditions. So I think the federal government should not take hardline position, because this distortion will create a kind of generation gap between the children of the poor and children of the rich. Okay, we need to look for a compromise. So
I have my first caller. Tunde is calling us from Osun State. Thank you for joining us today. Hello, Tunde. Hello. Okay, I think Tunde is not here.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Thank you for the contribution. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Tunde.
And the other person there.
Thank you.
Please, I want to reliably inform you that somebody working in net is. Hello?
Hello? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, as somebody in net healthcare system in this country, I want to tell you that even up to now, government has not implemented anything calling other ones in net sector up to now. Babajide. And again, the IPPI stuff of a thing, as somebody is working in the university, is a fraud. You can imagine at the point, even the IPPS were giving lecturers monies that were not even paid to them. As I was talking to you at the point, I was given a bill of 100 million that was paid into my account, which I never saw. Despite tendering all the evidence that I did collect such money, they still removed it and deducted it. So the IPPIS as it is a big fraud. Thank you.
Thank you today. Thank you for your contribution.
You know, my own issue is why get into agreements that you know you will not implement? Because nobody put a gun to your neck. So if looking at your finances, you know that we cannot pay this thing, no, that has to be part of the conversation from the beginning. Not that you now sign a memorandum of understanding or memorandum of action and then begin to stall, begin to delay and try to give Labour a bad name amongst Nigerians, because that is the strategy that maybe after a while Nigerians will pile pressure, this and that, they will look bad before Nigerians and they will go back to work. You signed this thing before they called off. You agreed. You did the same thing to the health workers. You agreed. You got into an agreement. And that was what the Senate President said, why did you sign in the first place if you knew you would not pay? You cannot sign the agreement and then come back and be citing poor finances and this. You knew that from the word go, that look, there are implications if we agree to these demands. So why did you agree?
Okay, I have Dozie. Dozie is calling us from Abuja. Thank you for joining us, Dozie.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead, please. Can you please turn down the volume of your TV set?
Don't listen to your TV set. Just keep talking.
I'll just turn down the volume. I'll switch it up.
Hello?
Yes.
We are listening to you.
Yeah.
You are live.
Yeah, my name is Dozie. I'm calling from Abuja here.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. The ASUU strike. See, I believe what Ngige is now doing is probably because he wants to go into politics. He's now going through the idea of trying to... Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ngige is now trying to play to the gallery by saying, go back to school. What has happened all these days, all these years? Please, this country should be serious. That our students are not in school and nobody is worried. Oh God, I weep for this country. I weep for this country. Children are not in school, and because we are not affected, we are less. We are just not children. We are just not worried. Please, Babajide, I don't know what you will say. I don't know what you want to say to this government. I don't know what you want to. Where is it that we can? What can we even touch in this country that is working? I am sorry. Please, Babajide, I wish you luck. Please.
Thank you, Dozie. Continue to be optimistic.
What can we do?
It is well.
What can we do? We will just continue to do our work. We are not politicians, and the job of the journalist is to point out those things that government needs to do to make life more meaningful to our people. And that is the commitment we have, and we cannot change because we saw politics as a vocation before we opted for journalism. Yep. As long as we are here, you can call us names, call us all kinds of funny names that some of them have designed. That is their problem.
I went on Twitter.
We just need to do our work.
I was like, wow.
No, it is because you have time.
I was like, wow.
The big journalists that I know, even in our country here, they are not really active on social media. And it is for a reason. Sometimes when you listen,
you get distracted.
You get distracted. Some of us are active, we answer them a little bit, you know, but sometimes you even regret it. That why am I even?
A lot of ignorance.
These guys,
ignorance, you know,
they are not ready for any healthy arguments. They are not.
Can meet on the street
even their quality of perception is just not there. So sometimes you even look stupid engaging some people in an argument. You ask yourself, why you? Because it's just. But sometimes I ask yourself, is it the level of frustration in our country that is making young people abusing their parents' age mates. It's only the social media is a leveler. Everyone, people who are not fit to lace your boots, they now come on social media. It's an opportunity to abuse
people. Yes, people tag us.
It's true.
Yes, people tag us element of destruction. That we're out to destroy a particular country.
Very ridiculous people.
Element of destruction. What we are doing here, I said, man, kudos to those guys on Twitter.
Well done. We know we are to our time. How many times do you see me there?
Oh, man,
I don't even go there at all.
So
don't bother myself.
You'll be distracted. Sometimes you ask yourself, that, is it that what I'm doing is so bad?
Okay. Kenneth is calling us from Makurdi.
Yep, hello.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Babajide.
Good evening.
Thank you very much. It's quite sad and quite unfortunate for a country like Nigeria, where a lot of these people who are putting our children out of school right now, most of them went to school for free.
Yes.
And have the privileges of going through our hard-earned money within the country. And a lot of them, from history, how we had, how the university system operates 20, 30 years before now. And today, you hardly see a minister or a commissioner's child schooling within the country. And even though they're schooling within the country, they go to private universities, not all those public universities.
Yes.
I want to challenge the federal government in this instance. If really they are so serious about this country, because they talk about every country who wants to grow. If we're not educated, we can't do anything good. You guys sitting in the studios there, you are well educated, and you are feeding us with things.
Thank you, Kenneth. Let me try and play the devil's advocate here. The Minister of Labour and Employment, that Chris Ngige, I know his 2 children that graduated from public university, University of Lagos. I've seen it. I've seen them graduating. Yes, Chris Ngige. You can find out. And I think 2 of, you say has like 2 still in the system. So not all of them. Yeah. Not all of them.
An overwhelming majority of them. Even people lower than them in the civil service. People lower than them in the civil service who are on level 10. Stealing civil servants. They are sending children to schools abroad.
Sure. Because normally
Malaysia,
they should not have
Egypt here. They are sending their children to schools.
Cyprus,
so we know these things.
Togo,
civil servants,
Ghana,
people who are not as big as Chris Ngige. They are sending their children abroad. We can do, from the law of averages, it is clear that Ngige is probably just one of the extremely few people of his class who have chosen to let their children go to school.
University of Lagos, medicine.
So that is the thing, and he should now use even that platform to do his best. I know that he wants the best. I've said it, I don't even think that his hands are tied. Ngige can say, today I want this thing to end. Does he have the finances to pay? His ministry does not control it. If they had a budget that could take care of the demands of I'm sure that Chris Ngige will willingly do that. He does not award contract. It's not so this is the thing. This is the thing.
Wale Adeoye, thank you for your contribution.
Thank you for Nigerian Labour Congress for showing interest in what's going on in ASUU. They should be allies, and they should speed up their contribution to resolving the crisis.
And if they come together, they will be stronger.
Sure.
And the messenger himself, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju. Thank you for always being there.
I greet you.
And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11 p.m. Join us every Sunday from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. for Journalists Hangout on Sunday. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Adewale. See you tomorrow, and God bless Nigeria.